Hi, friend. Thanks for stopping by my little short-term hunting camp. Now, today, I am out in this beautiful state park here in Ohio, and I went some squirrel hunting. Now I'm getting ready to make my lunch. And where better to have your lunch than outdoors? Now, today's video is going to be about heat regulation. Now, I think some of us, especially people who are not used to going outdoors during transitioning from summer warm months to winter cold months. This is a time period in the cycle of things that it can just be kind of confusing, and that's why I'm kind of addressing it today. And I'm hunting, and it's very important, especially if you are a hunter, if you're a sportsman, to take these things in consideration. Now, first thing, you might want to grab yourself a nice hot cup of coffee. I already poured myself from my thermos here, and let's chat for a little while. I remember going on a camp out, and it was fine. You know, I was completely prepared for the camp out, but I went on a hike, and it was during the fall season. I'm pretty sure it was October, probably this same kind of time frame that we are in right now. And during that hike, you know, it was really oddly warm. It was kind of like an Indian summer, if I recall. And I took my day pack with me. I had my lunch, my snack or whatever, and I had the basic essentials and stuff. But what I didn't consider was during this time in our seasons, how fast things can change. You know, you might get some cloud coverage that stays for a while, and it was really warm, but with that cloud coverage, temperatures can drop. Or maybe you have a cold front come in, or a surprise pop-up rain shower. You know, these are the kind of things that you got to be prepared for. It's things that you need to account for because things change so quickly. So what I could have done, had I been better equipped, if nothing else, you know, have a thermos of hot beverage, right? Because that's going to regulate our internal temperature. And just like a lunch, getting ready to make some stew here, I could have come prepared with something to heat up. Now, back then I didn't have a camp stove. I had I'm pretty sure I had one of those like Esbit stoves, so if nothing else, that could have been fine, or used even a can of Sterno, which they had those, and those are always readily available, right, to heat up some food. But anyhow, the bottom line is I didn't come prepared. And I suffered for it. Now, I didn't get like hypothermia, I didn't get pneumonia, anything like that. But I was definitely uncomfortable, and I didn't like it. And if you know, I got caught up someplace, it could have been quite dangerous. Stew. Love stew. Even cold, it's good. So besides, you know, taking care of your internal temperatures, which is really important, especially if you are cold, the first thing you want to do is kind of warm up your internal temperature. Even if you're just drinking warm water, you know, that will help and go a long ways of regulating it, and you'll feel warm right away. So besides, you know, drinking warm beverages, eating warm food, what else can you do? First of all, you can come prepared with your clothing. Now, there's a saying that says cotton kills. Cotton doesn't necessarily kill, but it's so readily available, right? You can go to your big box store. Everybody's got cotton clothing because it's cheap. It's readily available. The thing with cotton is you don't want it to get damp or wet, especially with your sweat. It'll do okay, and it breathes wonderfully. That's why it's so nice during the summer months, because even if it does get wet, you have the transpiration off of it so you can cool down from that effect. Hear that roar of that stove, right? Man, this is gonna be good. All right, so cotton doesn't necessarily kill, but you just gotta make sure that you maybe have an extra cotton shirt or something like that. That way you can switch it out in case it does get wet. Maybe you fall in, maybe you get in a rainstorm or something like that. You want to have something in case you are wearing cotton and it gets damp. What I suggest you get is go on eBay, check out your thrift stores, and you try to find outdoor wool clothing. Even if it's a mixture wool, wool's going to go a long ways in keeping you warm. It is the best natural fabric that you can get. I talked about this in previous videos, and I'm a strong believer in it. And if you don't like wool because it's itchy, you try to spend up the money in the right place and try to find a merino wool. If you get a pair of long johns, that's your base layer, get merino wool. Because the merino wool is really, really soft. It's just like cotton, and it is going to help regulate your temperature because it's going to wick away the moisture away from your body. So that's really important. Again, you can find heritage brands, you can find used clothing on various sources, so you're not paying hundreds of dollars. If you try to buy a brand new wool flannel shirt, for example, you're going to pay a lot of money because wool is not a resource right now that's used by a lot of people, so that means prices go up. If you want the prices of wool stuff to go down, then as a society en masse, we need to support the wool farmers to bring it down. But there's also new technologies available as well. There's smart wool. There's polyester blends can do a really good job of keeping you warm in comparison to cotton. If you've liked this video, you found it useful or entertaining, please click like. That way other people find it, you'll be helping them out as well. We really appreciate it. Right now, I'm wearing a secondhand wool flannel shirt, and I found this at a thrift store, and I snatched it up. I didn't care what brand it was. I was just looking for the material content, and it is a wool flannel shirt. Wool flannel, now flannel by itself is just a way of processing fabric. So when we say flannel, people just want to lump it all together, but there's cotton flannel shirts, there's wool flannel shirts, and there's blended flannel shirts. Wool flannel shirts are becoming harder and harder and harder to find. You can find them when you go to the thrift stores. Just look on the tag and you're looking for wool, and you're looking for keywords, maybe like Shetland look for wool primarily. Go on eBay, you can find it on there. So let's talk about jackets. Now this jacket is a Woolrich jacket. Woolrich, unfortunately, is closing its doors, and it's kind of been away from its founding for a long time now, so it's no surprise. But you can still get really nice wool jackets. J.C. Higgins was made by Sears back in the 50s. I got my son one of those, and he really likes it. It's not as heavy wool, and it might just vary because of that model that he has. But you want a heavier duty. Like when you pick up the jacket, you're like, whoa, that's a lot of weight. Okay, yeah, it's a lot of weight, but it will go a long ways in regulating your temperature again. So when it's cold or when it's warm, you just open up your jacket and let that air come through, and it would surprise you at how fast just doing that will cool you down. It's because of the material itself. We got to pay attention to the materials. If you are getting cold, then you button up, maybe 1 or 2 buttons. And nice thing about these outdoor jackets, especially the older style, they got the high collar that you can throw up along with the mask, so you can pretty much completely encapsulate yourself. But Filson is still around. You're going to pay for it. Filson is a premium brand, but if outdoor adventure is really going to be your thing, then spending the money where it counts will save you a lot in the long run, and the resale value is pretty high. So say you get out of camping, maybe you outgrow it, something happens, you can sell these quality items on the resale market, and they retain their value. Okay, so think of it more like an investment than just our traditional throwaway society where you're going to donate it to Goodwill. If you donate it to Goodwill, let me know, that way I can go find it. But investing, okay, think about that. Not just your money, but you're investing for generations as well. You can pass these things on to your kids or grandkids, or maybe a kid or someone that you notice, maybe a friend that you notice that is starting to get an outdoor hobby. So it's an investment. Think of it like that. You know, we need to think about our mindset in outdoor adventure as investments. Okay, you invest in your car, you invest in your house. If this is something you're going to spend a lot of time in, and especially where your life could quite literally depend on it, then make sure that that investment is you know, paid off. Going to pay off. I had to move my lunch because the wind is really starting to pick up and get to it. It means it's going to use a lot more fuel. You want to pay attention to your hat. You know, I have a beanie that I brought with me as well, just because it's lightweight. You know, it's no big deal. I could also use it as a glove, you know, to take hot things off of my little stove. But when it gets cold and your ears start getting cold, you can throw a beanie on. You can even throw your hat over top of your beanie. This is a wool cap, and does a great job. If you pay attention to your head, your feet, your armpits, and your groin, you know, those are the areas where we lose most of our heat. You take care of those, and they'll take care of you. All right. So we talked about our head and our jacket and our body, you know, having base layers like having long johns or something like that, especially when it starts to get colder. And again, you can shed off your coat. You can shed off your shirt if you got long johns, or if you just don't care. Next, pants. Your pants, you want to make sure that you can move around. So these are cotton twill jodhpurs. I know a lot of people make fun of jodhpur breeches. It's not something that's commonly seen today, but these were specifically designed for military and outdoor use. All right, and the design goes all the way back to the 1800s. It was very popular into the 1940s. That's why you can go on eBay and you can still find hunting pants, and they tend to be the jodhpur design. There's a reason behind it. All right, it's because you can move around. You know, modern materials, they tend to stretch. Back then they didn't, but I love the jodhpurs because of them being cotton. If they do get wet, it's not a big deal getting them dry. Okay, jeans is something you want to avoid. It's the most common thing that you see people wear out in the outdoors. It's good if you are, you know, it's rugged material, don't get me wrong, but if it gets wet, it's hard to dry out, right? Just because of the weave and everything that it's manufactured for. So when you're going out in the woods, whether it be hunting or camping or something like that, you want to avoid jeans because it does not breathe as well. It's made of cotton. It doesn't breathe as well, say like your cotton shirt. So it tends to hold in heat. So then you have heat rashes that you can be concerned about. If it gets wet, then that's going to draw the heat away from your body, and you're just going to get sick. You're going to feel cold. You can get hypothermia. The next thing, let's talk about socks. All right, now there are wool socks. You can get cheap wool socks today. If you go to any of your hunting stores or your boot stores, you can find wool socks, okay? So there's really no excuse not to wear wool socks. And if you're like, wool socks are itchy, well then get yourself some liners, okay? You put your liner on. It's a wicking sock. It's really, really thin. Think like dress socks. It's gonna be really, really thin, but it will wick it away from your feet. Then the wool will take it from there. But yeah, you got to wear the appropriate kind of socks. And there's different thicknesses. Boot socks for winter, they're going to be a lot thicker, a lot heavier, but then your boots may not fit over those. So when you buy your shoes or boots, you got to think about the season and when you're going to use it. Most of us probably use our boots during warm weather. There's only a few people that really do super cold. If you are going to go cold weather and you don't have the right size boot, your feet will probably get cold. You need to pay attention to your feet because the temperature will draw from your digits, like your fingers and your toes, before they draws from other things. So then you can end up with frostbite. Now frostbite's not good. If it's really bad, then you may lose your toe. So pay attention to how your body's feeling. My soup is almost done. It was perfect because this video is almost done. So I think we covered a lot in regards to making sure. I think we talked about a lot, making sure that you have the right clothing, and we're talking about internal temperature and outside temperature. But the main point I want you guys to take away from this is during these fall months where weather fluctuates rather regularly, you need to take that into consideration. Take a pack. That way, if you do have to shed layers, you can shed your layers and put it in your pack. But it's better to be over-prepared than under-prepared. That way you don't end up with hypothermia or sick, or you just have a bad time. You know, ultimately, we only get so much time to spend out in the woods. We want to make sure that we get the most of it. Doing things like warm food, warm drink, warm clothes will keep you out in the woods a lot longer. Now, if you are interested in checking out my video about my coat here, then check it out right here. If you're interested in checking out my video about the breeches and why I think they're so awesome, check it out here. I should probably update that breech video. It's been a long time since I made it. But it is still relevant, and everything in there is still true. These are the same breeches I'm wearing right now that was in that video. So what price glory, if you're interested in checking that out, I have a description, well, in the description box below, I have it listed there. You can also check out my website, www.honorableoutfitters.com. And if you would like to be a part of the newsletter, because once a month, it's the last Friday of every month, I put out a newsletter, so it's not spamming you or anything. But I put a historical article. It's a brand new historical article about one of the pieces in my collection that I usually just don't have the time for this video. And honestly, a lot of people don't care about the history of the stuff. They just like seeing the stuff being made. So I put the history of it in there for you. And there's a lot more value to it. I give you updates about the channel and things that are coming up. There's the podcast, which, by the way, you didn't know, I've got a podcast. It's Campfire Chats with Honorable Outfitters. It's on all podcast networks, including on YouTube. But check those out. If you'd like to see a video about the Warrior's Coat, check it out here. If you'd like to see a video about the Jodhpur breeches, then check it out here. Hope you guys have a wonderful week. Give a kiss out to your loved ones, and I'll see you guys next time. Enjoy it. This is going to be good.